Y equals 3/7 x plus 2. That is slope-intercept form. And we're going to change it to standard form. We do not like dealing with fractions. So we're going to multiply everything by 7. So 7 times y over here becomes 7y equals, and when I multiply this 7 by 3/7, the 7 in the denominator and this 7 over here would cancel out or simplify out. So I'm left with 3x here. And then 7 times 2 here is 14. Okay. Any questions about that step? All right, so now it says I need to move my x over to the left-hand side. So moving it mathematically, what would I do? Subtract. It's a positive, so I need to subtract 3x. And 3x is here, cancel out. I cannot combine xylophones and yaks. So I want the x term first, negative 3x plus 7y equals 14. Now, that looks pretty good, right? Except for one thing. When you have standard form, we always want a to be positive. So what do I need to do here? I always say multiply, just because I think multiplying is easier. You can divide same way, but basically you are going to switch the sign on every term. So a negative times negative is positive 3x. Negative times your positive is negative 7y. And positive times negative is negative 14. There we go. Questions on that? Anybody happen to get that answer? Or did you forget about the positive a? Just remember, you want a to be positive. Did you divide? Oh, at the very beginning? Okay. All right, let's go to our second problem. Y equals 9x minus 4. I've got to move it. What am I going to move? Who can I talk to? Devion. Huh? What am I going to move? What should I move? If I want ax plus by equals c and I have y equals 9x minus 4. Yes, thank you, Devion. Yes, the 9. How am I going to move it, Devion? Say what? How am I going to move that 9 to this other side? Right, I'm going to subtract it because it's a positive. So I'm going to subtract 9x from both sides of the equal sign. Make sure your equal sign is the divider, the boundary. 9x's cancel out. And we want the x term first, negative 9x. That is plus y equals negative 4. Can I stop there? I need that a to be a positive. I got that from you. So times negative 1 times negative 1. Negative times negative gives me the positive. And every sign switches. Negative times positive is minus y equals negative times negative is a positive 4. And there you have it. Yes?
Why you put the negative 1?
Why? Because the a value has to be positive. Okay, help me out. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Where? What step?
You put negative 1 in front of the parentheses and then 1 at the end.
Yes. I am multiplying everything by negative 1 because my a value was negative here. Now, you could have also divided by negative 1 because multiplying or dividing by negative 1 get you the same answer, only a different sign. Did you divide by chance? Or you didn't do either? Huh? So you need another packet? Okay. So yes, you cannot have a negative A value. Any questions on anything else? A always has to be positive in standard form. All right, let's go to page 20. Page 20. We are finishing up these notes. We're reviewing tomorrow and Monday, test on Tuesday. So that means if you haven't been keeping up with your homework, you need to get me 1, 2, and 3 soon. Well, 3 tomorrow is really the earliest you should be able to get 3 to me. No. Cancel. That's not what I wanted. Come on. Oh, spot. I hope this is recording. Okay, did we get all through A, B, D, and D on page 20? We did? Okay, I think we did. Some of you might have packed up early. Oops. I believe we are ready for page 21. Let's see how far. This is the last page of notes before the test. 21. Page 21. All right. So now we're taking our linear equations into our third form, which is point-slope form. Guess what we're going to need for point-slope form? We need a point and we need slope. They're so original with their titles, right? So it says the equation of a linear function can be written in point-slope form, which is y minus y prime equals m, which is our slope, times x minus x sub 1 or sub prime, where m is the slope and x sub 1, y sub 1 are the coordinates of a point on the line. Now, here's what I think has always been the trickiest. This first y and this first x stay as x and y. And you might want to write that down. They stay as, I guess it's y comes first, y and x. You are not substituting for those in. They stay as y and they stay as x. Just the first ones. Now, the ones with the y sub 1 and x sub 1, that's where you put the point in. Okay? That was always hard for me to remember. All right, so example 5, point-slope form, given the slope and a point. Write an equation of a line that passes through this point and has a slope of 11 in point-slope form. Okay, so 3 is going to be my x sub 1 point. Negative 5 is my y sub 1 point. So they substituted in, here's my original point-slope form. They substitute and say y minus y sub 1, which is negative 5, equals 11 times x minus 3. You cannot subtract a negative. So here we change it to adding the opposite. So that becomes y plus 5 equals 11 times x minus 3. And that is your final answer. Right there. That is your final answer. We're not going to distribute the 11. We're not going to do anything else like that. That is point-slope form. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at these checks. See if we can do what they just asked us to do. Write the equations of the lines in point slope form. First thing I'm going to do is write the point slope form itself, which is y minus y sub 1 equals m times parentheses x minus x sub 1. My slope is 4. That's going to go where m is. And my point is negative 5, 7, which goes in these two spots. So all we need to do is substitute those values in. What did I just say? That first y is going to stay as a y. So that's y minus y sub 1. My y sub 1 value is 7 equals my slope is 4. Substituting 4 in here, times parentheses x minus negative 5. And I'm going to put the negative 5 in parentheses. You don't have to, but just make sure you've got a minus negative 5. There is only one thing I need to simplify here. We cannot subtract a negative, so we change this to adding the opposite. So I'm going to rewrite it and say y minus 7 equals 4 times x plus 5. That is your final answer. Any questions on that? You are just plugging in these values, okay? You just put on my desk. Thank you. So let's go to B. Here we have a slope of negative 1/2. It passes through the point 2, negative 8. Slope negative 1/2 passing through 2, negative 8. So we have y, because the y, first y stays the same, minus my y sub prime is negative 8. So I'm going to put that in parentheses. Equals m, my slope, which is negative 1/2. It goes right here. Times x minus x sub prime, or x sub 1, which is 2. I'm not going to distribute. The only thing I'm going to do is change this minus negative to a plus. So my final answer is y plus 8 equals negative 1/2 times x minus 2. What do you think? Not too bad? All right. So let's go to the last part of this section. Now we're going to do point slope form, but we are only going to be given 2 points. Well, we can handle that. No, you've only got one left for the semester. Okay.
Thank you.
So it says, write an equation of a line that passes through 1, 1 and 7, 13 in point slope form. Well, first of all, we have to find the slope, okay? We have to find the slope. And they remind us of the slope formula is m, because we haven't had this yet this year, is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. You might have heard of it called the change in y.
Or delta.
Huh?
I think it was delta too.
Yes, delta sometimes. Change in y over change in x. Or delta means the change of y over change of x. Who was your teacher last year?
Mr. Keeley.
Who?
Mr. Keeley.
Keely, yes. He's not here anymore.
I haven't.
All right. So it says for step 2, substitute the slope for m and the coordinates of either points for x sub 1, y sub 1 in point slope form. So those are the directions. That's what we need to do. Now we're going to practice with some actual numbers. So check. Use the points to write the equation in point slope form. I'm going to write point slope form here just to help remind me this is what I'm trying to get to. Okay? That's what I'm trying to get to. I don't have the slope. So I need to find my slope first, which I know is m. And if I go back up to the top, slope is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Change in y divided by the change in x. Now, it doesn't matter which point you pick as point 1 or point 2, Devion, up here. It doesn't matter what point you pick, but you have to be consistent. Once you pick point 1, it stays as point 1. I'm going to say this is point 1 and this is point 2. So y sub 2, the y coordinate here is 0. So I'm going to say that is 0 minus the y coordinate here of 5. All divided by, now I got to go to my x sub 2. X sub 2 is negative 2 minus x sub 1 is negative 7. And you have to be extremely careful with your signs. Okay? So putting this together, what is 0 minus 5? Negative 5. I cannot subtract a negative, so I'm going to make this adding the opposite. And then negative 2 plus 7 is a positive 5. Negative 5 divided by positive 5 is negative 1. That is my slope. Negative 1. All right, so now I'm looking to go back to point slope form. I'm going to pick a point. I am going to pick, whoa, that's not what I wanted. This point right here. So I say y, because the first y stays the same, minus y sub 1. That value is 0. This is your y sub 1, equals my slope, which we just said was negative 1, times the first x, which stays the same, minus x sub 1, which is negative 2, which I'm going to put in parentheses. Now I need to clean it up just a little bit. I can easily take y minus 0. What is y minus nothing? It's y equals negative 1. I'm going to keep there. I cannot subtract a negative, so I'm going to add the opposite here, and this becomes x plus 2. Y equals negative 1 times quantity x plus 2. What questions do you have about that? So if we were to go in reverse and they said this is point slope form, no, this is, yes, point slope form, and they said what is my slope? Hopefully you would be able to say my slope is negative 1. And my point, that's a little bit trickier with this one. Your x sub 1 value has to be x minus x sub 1. So this x sub 1 over here is going to be negative 2 because it's in the minus. And this over here, you're like, well, there's nothing there, and that would be back to 0. Okay? And we know that's right because that's what the point was up here at the top. Yes? What about negative 7.5? Let's do negative 7.5. Let's check it out. Should it work the same? Let's see. So we already have this. This is our slope. So let's take negative 7 and 5. Negative 7 and 5. We're going to use that as our point. What if we said y minus y sub 1, which is 5, equals, negative 1 times x minus, did I do something wrong? Negative 7. And that's in parentheses. I'm going to go down again. So simplifying it, cleaning it up just a little, you cannot subtract a negative. So that's going to change to adding the opposite. And your answer would be y minus 5 equals negative 1 times x plus 7. Yeah, but Miss Steedy, how come those are not the same? Did we use the same points? No. So a line has infinitely many points on it. So you are going to have a lot of different values, okay? But these are both correct when it comes to point slope form. Okay? Great question. I hadn't even thought of that question. Did you do it like that second problem first, or you were just curious?
Because I didn't know why they just do the 0 not.
Right. I did that one because it had the 0 in it, and usually working with 0 makes things a little simpler. Great question. All right, let's go to the second problem now. Here we have an equation that passes through these 2 points. Okay? First of all, I need to find my slope. Slope is y sub 2 minus y sub 1, all divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Again, it does not matter which point you designate as 1 or 2, but you have to be consistent. So I'm calling that one point 1 and this one point 2. So the y value of the second point is 3 minus the y value of the first point is negative 6. Yes, you should write this down. And the x coordinate of the second point is 1 minus the x coordinate of the first point is negative 4. All right, so we cannot subtract negatives, so we add the opposite. Add the opposite. 3 plus 6 is 9, and 1 plus 4 is 5. So this is my slope, 9/5. Last thing I need to do is just substitute that in for this equation. And since I already called this my 1 point, I'm going to use these coordinates. So I'm going to say y minus the y coordinate, which is negative 6, equals my slope, 9/5, times x minus my x subprime, which is right here, negative 4. Why am I always running out of space? Okay, cannot subtract a negative, so add the opposite. And add the opposite over here. Wasn't that a -2? -4, I mean. Negative also. So, final answer, y plus 6 equals 9/5 times quantity x plus 4. Oops. And if I did the other way, it would be y minus 3 equals 9/5 times x minus 1. So either of those would be correct. Either of those would be correct. Questions on that? All right. Hey, guys, we have made it through all of 9-1, 9-2, and 9-3. I know, right? So your homework and what I want you to get started on right now is homework 9. I say 9-3. It's homework number 3 of this module. And it has everything on it that we have just learned from this last section. Excuse you. So I want everybody working on this. If you have questions, I want you to ask those questions now.
I'm already done.
You're done with all of it? Okay. Tomorrow we will begin reviewing. I believe I have a worksheet. I don't have it copied yet, but I have a worksheet. Tomorrow and Monday, test on Tuesday. Everybody repeat after me. Tomorrow and Monday review. Tomorrow and Monday review. Test on Tuesday. Test on Tuesday. Okay? All right. So, let's get your homework out.
Let's do it by Monday, right?
This? Yeah, but I mean, if you can get it tomorrow, that'd be great. And then on Tuesday, while you're taking the test, I will collect your packets and we'll be looking at your bell work for some points. And I will be looking at the reviews also that we will work on together. Although tomorrow I might let you work on the review by yourself to see what you know. Okay? All right. Everybody, let's be working on this homework then. And I can probably shut this.